Uh, let's welcome our speaker, JANIS GRAUBINS, who's going to talk about the future of authentication.
Yes, thank you everybody. Does everybody hear me very well? Cool. All right, it's a pleasure to be here. It's one of the few conferences where I cannot wear a suit, so that's always nice for me. Let me introduce myself. So before starting the Notakey, which is an authentication solution, I was working in a London-based innovation agency called Unit 9. This is our office, so we were doing a lot of developing and designing. As you can see, everybody's very busy in the work. So where I am, I was outside actually of the building most of the time. It looks like I was chilling, but actually I was the one who was doing the business development. And we had the clients like, for instance, McLaren. The challenge which we saw with these big companies usually was that it's not so much about innovation, because usually they considered innovation more as a PR stunt, but how you can keep the reputation, how you can keep the position in the market, because if you are very big, then the stakes are very high. Because nobody wants to have a Yahoo moment. So I guess you all have heard about the Yahoo hack, that it has been very big, but how big it has been. So let me show you. So basically, after the hack of Yahoo, the valuation of the company decreased by 100 to 200 million. So actually, that's the price that companies have having a data breach. So meanwhile, my colleagues who we partner for the Notakey, they finished developing the architecture for electronic ID card. So this is a solution which would solve all these problems with the data security. However, the problem was that in Latvia, only 10% actually own these cards, and out of that, like 10% is using that actively. So basically 1% using that. So you can have a very strong authentication, but if nobody is using that, then it's quite a big problem. And what changed? Last year, banks of Latvia and also elsewhere, they start look, what's the next solution for authentication? How can we meet the PSD2 requirements for strong two-factor authentication? Strong two-factor authentication is basically one of these things. So you have to have something what people know, something what a person owns, or something what a person is. So you have to fill two of these criteria. We are concentrating on the something what can be left in the cab. All right, so what was the problem when we were looking into the authentication solutions as the alternatives to the existing ones? We saw that the 10 list, a list of codes which currently are used for the banks, they will be banned next year. So in Latvia and Lithuania, they all said that it's not enough. SMS-based solutions like Google Authenticator, they have stated themselves that it's not safe enough, that there's a lot of ways how you can actually hack into that. So one of the easiest way to do that is actually using such a thing as call forwarding. Just calls your mobile operator, said, oh, I want to change to that number, and it's done, and there has been a lot of incidents like that. And interestingly is that what he has seen also regarding the PSD2, that in the discussion papers there has been stated that SMS is considered a two-step verification, not a two-factor. So it's basically the same as password. With the software solutions, the problem has been that they mostly use shard keys. And there was an Intel report that they were able to use a malware on the phone, which got the key, and then they could impersonate that user on another phone. So basically, there hasn't been a lot of solutions how to solve the strong two-factor authentication except the hardware tokens. So what we did, we used our experience and the standards which are used for the electronic ID cards, public key infrastructure, and we use that for the mobile phones. And we added there also an element of the certificates, which actually goes nicely into the next point, what we are trying to solve as well, GDPR. So when we started, we understood it's not only about strong two-factor authentication, but there's a new regulation coming up in Europe called data privacy law. And this is actually very interesting that companies, they do not share the information what they have about user in 1 month's time, they can be sued up to 20 million or 4% of their annual turnover. So that has been a very huge problem. And we saw that there's a way how to use the public key infrastructure together with certificates to solve these problems about data sharing easily with the third parties, like creating a Facebook pass for third party where you share information, as well as removing information and allowing to be forgotten. So we started last year in November. Right now we have some smaller and bigger companies who are believing us. I don't trust EV Africa and Santander. They are using it for two-factor authentication. UBS, Credit Suisse, and Swisscom. We are doing now a pilot regarding this GDPR, that you can share easily information with the third parties. And interestingly, is that for Credit Suisse, we are also like doing for Workstation for internal employees as well, a proof of concept. But I will not go too much into this all banking stuff because I guess you're more interested about the enterprise and how you can solve the enterprise problems. So let me dig into the first problem, what you usually encounter having a solution for internal employee authentication. Smart cards or the hardware tokens, the problem, the biggest one, and also from our experience, has been that it's very inconvenient. It's not fun at all. That's the bottom point. And you always forget it. You don't have it with you. It's also quite expensive to have it. The way how we solve that, so the first part, the onboarding, it's done very easily. You just download an app on the phone, and then you follow the steps what are needed to do the initial authentication. So for instance, like in this case, it's an app where you have a lot of service, but it can be a white label solution where there's services hard coded. So you just start it, you start enabling it. So this one is with a QR code. Then you go to the site, you read the QR code, and that's it. So you're in. The other scenarios which we allow is video onboarding, onboarding with electronic ID card, onboarding with any solutions you have already in place. And that also goes into my next slide, that it can be easily integrated with Active Directories or LDAP. So it's very nice, and it shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes to hours to configure everything. And about the authentication itself, so compared to the hardware solutions where you usually get the codes or you put the card in the reader, you just have one simple notification like this. Yes, it's not so easy to cancel it. No, hopefully not. Oops, yes. Let me go back. All right. Sorry for that. Yes, so it's very simple authentication request. We just have two buttons, either accept or deny, and that's it. So it's super fast. Let me show you a video how it looks for a Workstation login. All right, go. Well, for some reason it doesn't work. All right, so basically what you should have seen, there's ID number, like of the user. All right, I can use this thing. So you write here, you write the password, and this is a mobile phone, so you just receive here a push notification with two buttons, approve or deny. And when you do that, then you are authenticated. So what happens in the background, that all these messages are signed with a private key, which is backed up by the phone's hardware. So it's super fast. I think it was so fast that the computer couldn't handle it. All right, so let me dig deeper into the next step, like the next thing what we are trying to solve. Usually also the problem is that if you have like one database, then the system starts becoming slow. What we have done using these certificates, we distributed the user information on each of the phones. So we use actually the phone's power to do all this processing of all the requests which there are. I think that there's an interesting slide which I would like to show you in the next one. So funny that like for the Apollo 11 mission on Moon, they had less computer power than we have on our mobile phones. So that's a food for thought. Another thing what I want to mention here is why like we are using the mobile phone is that you have a lot of sensors. You can get information like geolocation. If, for instance, the phone has been stolen, then we can spot on that the user has went to another place. He says not where he typically is. That's also important for internal employees if you want to say that you can log in only from one country. So, for instance, for banks in Switzerland, it's a very hot topic that they can only allow to do that from the Switzerland. And let me go deeper into the security. I mentioned it a little bit, but the main point is that we can provide the hardware level security, which was only previously available on the smart cards. And the way how we do that, we use secure enclave or trusted execution environment on the Android. So currently, what we have got from the mobile phone operators, 9 out of 10 phones which are in the market, they are supporting that. So this is ARM chip, which is already implemented in the phones. And yeah, it's called secure enclave or trusted execution environment. So the question usually what we get, especially from phone telecommunication companies, is what about SIM cards? Like SIM cards are also very secure for providing the solution. I know like in Estonia, the identification solution has been built on the SIM card. So the problems there is like Apple, Samsung, they're all going towards SIM-less phones. So this is like a big problem in the future. How can you do the authentication if there's no SIM card anymore? We are okay in that regards that we don't use SIM card, we use secure element. Another thing about the security is the keys, like how strong they are. We use for signing and encryption, we use RSA or elliptic curve keys, and for document encryption, AES keys. So just to give you an example, both the RSA or elliptic curve keys used for encryption or for document signature, they are so secure that if you would put all the computer power together, it would take trillions of years to break it. So basically, breaking the keys, it's not possible, only if you can somehow access that. And the final point is that we are also trying to be compliant with all the legal stuff. So for the signatures, we use the standards like SADES and PADES, which are set by the European Union, so they are used quite widely. For instance, this year in July, there's a new regulation called AIDES, so they are forcing that there's one standard which all of the member states are using, and these are the ones we are using as well. About potential threats, of course, there could be like side channel attack. What we have seen from our experience, that only for elliptic curves there has been cases when they could do that, but it's a very low risk. Basically, for RSA keys, we haven't seen that there has been a case from any of the mobile phones. Bug in secure enclave, I think it's also very low risk because, like, let's say Apple, they use a secure enclave for the Apple Pay, and they are putting a lot of money into having no bugs because then their solution would be compromised, and it's a big part of their business. And on secure onboarding procedure. So this is like a very important step, and I was mentioning that we have these different onboarding scenarios. The difference why we have these onboarding scenarios differently is based also on the signature level you want to have. So for instance, for qualified electronic signatures, which are used for signing legal agreements with public institutions or getting loans, usually the onboarding procedure at the moment, it has to be that it's checked face-to-face on premises. Interestingly, that in Germany, they have stated in the law by Ministry of Finance that the video onboarding is the same as on premises. So we believe that soon in other member states also it will be allowed like that. Then there's a step lower, which is advanced signatures, where you can have much more freedom, and then just like for internal purposes. So you can have a very, very simple onboarding procedure. Potential threats, some more. Social engineering, quantum computers. I heard that some speakers mentioned this day about quantum computers, but it's still in the future, and if there will be quantum computers, we'll be using that for encryption. Cool. So the next point about the legal things and how we are trying to solve all of this. As we are using these certificates and distributing on each of the phones, in such a way we can provide the qualified signatures. So this was the thing what I mentioned in the onboarding procedure. So the next step is that once you get it, you can sign all these agreements with public institutions. Currently, the bottleneck what is there is that although the law is in place that the mobile phone can be used for these electronic signatures to substitute electronic ID cards, there isn't yet a list of all of the devices which are allowed for the qualified electronic signatures, and it should be that end of this year, beginning of next year, there will be a public one which are supported. But from our side, from the software side, there's everything in place to do that. And a very important point that using a mobile phone, we cut the cost very highly. So with the hardware token, usually have this upfront cost starting from 10 to 200 per device. And then also each year you have the support cost. Well, with the phone, you use just the phone's hardware, which everybody else already has. So you have these upfront costs, you can reduce it significantly. And you can use both on the phones as well as on the iPads. Next thing what we are working right now, just too interesting, like where we're looking for. So the thing why this talk is also called the future of authentication is mobile, that mobile phone is very good that you can use all the sensors as well as you can use like biometric readings. Like all the phones now are coming with the fingerprint readers. The thing why we haven't like put it as a main feature is that yet not all the phones support that. Also face recognition. In some of the banks, they are trying also to put that. Still not very precise, but I think in the future it will be more and more used. Another thing is voice recognition. And a very interesting slide that what we are also looking at the moment about behavioral analytics, like how you type or what's the sound of the environment. From our experience, it's yet not very safe, but it's a great addition if you want to have like convenience. If there's not required a super high level of security, it could work together with other factors and provide a very nice user experience. And that's it. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer that. Just one thought for your what you can think about it. I guess you might be familiar with Star Wars, and there was a quote that if the Death Star would have two-factor authentication, it could have been saved. All right, thank you.
All right, so we have plenty of time for questions, and again, the speaker's favorite question will get an invitation to our after party.
Oh, wow.
So, do we have any questions? Oh, no one wants to go. Oh.
All right.
Sorry. There you
go. What about kind of backup features? If the phone battery dies or something, then you are basically unable to log in anywhere or something.
Yeah. The way how we solve that is that once you have onboarded one device, then you can from that approve the next device. For instance, you can have like an iPad as another authentication means or another phone. The thing what, especially for the qualified signatures, what we don't support is like backing up the key, because then it becomes unsecure. So you have to have this from the legal point of view that the signature creation device is very safe, that there's no way how you can easily get a backup and then impersonate that user. So that's for the highest like legal point of view. Then this is the thing what you have to deal with. But then if you go a step lower, so if you don't want to have like qualified electronic signatures, then you can have like backups, and that's something what we have been also looking for the GDPR regulations, that there's a mix between the phone and the HSM with backups, so it's getting more complicated. Yes.
Do you see, I understand you say that your solution could replace or be alongside like official electronic signature solutions in Latvia, Estonia, and probably in other countries.
Yes.
Can you put this in more perspective? How you see this working when I can go and get your solution, or can I do now? And what would be costs for me as a user?
Yes. So the first thing, like how we can do that, is that in order to like provide the same level of the legally wideness, I would say, then you have to use a trust service provider. So like who are giving the certificates which then are put in the phones. So they are like saying that the procedure, how the onboarding has been done, has been safe and and with all the requirements they have set. Currently, what is like a thing what is limiting it is that you have to wait for this list to be announced, and this will be end of this year or beginning of next year, all devices which can store these as signatures. So this is a missing part, but the law is already in place that it can be used, and it will be like if you have like signature in one country, let's say Latvia, you could use that in all of the member states of the Europe. So you sign the contract in Latvia and it's binding in all of the courts. And so regarding the costs, what you have seen also in Switzerland and other countries, the problem also why not a lot of solutions like electronic ID cards have been used, because they have been saying the user has to pay for that. And that's a big issue why also in Latvia I think that only 10% are using them. In our case, we have put the costs very minimal, so there's like no upfront costs. So that's good for the user, and we believe that working together with government, that they are like paying for that, it's from the psychological thing better for the users, because of course they are paying that in the form of taxes, but it's that the people are not used to paying for security. Usually that's that's for the service providers who cover that.
So, any other questions? I don't see any. All right. So, which was your favorite question from this?
I must say that I liked the both questions. They were really good. I will go for the first one, but just because he was the first one, and it's usually like who is the first one who will ask something. That's why.
So, congratulations. And we. Let's thank you, JANIS GRAUBINS, for this talk. So there you go.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Thank you.